look, jungle is back. They've brought experience into the role. That means we're having way more fun with it. Gankers can have a better fallback. Farmers can actually go ahead and farm. Everyone's enjoying this, but how must you actually approach the game? And what are the most important things you need to know that you must know in order to succeed for the rest of Season 14? And we'll start with the first clears of our first game, looking at a more farming approach with a bit of a ganking approach. And I'll also have a what you should not do and what you should do in the second game example, just to give you a full ganking, invading, counter jungling, farming. Again, everything you need to know. We have the Karthus here starting in the blue, Grump Wolves. Evelynn starts on the top side. Obviously, to no one's surprise, we're gonna do a full clear. Nothing has changed in this regard. The big thing though is once you've done this full clear, if you go for the Scuttle Crab, if you go for the gank, what do we do in the second and third rotations? That is where the power, nay, that is where the jungle diff will be determined, because the level 4, 5, 6 camps are gonna give you so much. Unless, of course, you lose them. And maybe just to provide some context here, the first clears are all the same as I just said, but the level 4 camps will respawn in the first quadrant you clear, and the level 5 camps will respawn in the second quadrant you clear. The level 4 camps are definitely a huge boost, but the level 5 camps are really where you will notice your experience bar move insanely high and quickly when you're able to control your own and counter jungle theirs. The most important thing with this jungle meta as you watch the Karthus gank the side lane on the top side is understanding the pure amount of experience you leave on the map with bad decisions. That means skillful jungling exists because bad jungling gets punished, and when you get punished, you absolutely must head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library, special weekly content you'll see nowhere else, as well as all of this hosted in a private jungle Discord. And if there is one thing I'm good at, it's making junglers go from low elo to high elo, as seen by the great number of success stories from the end of last season and already the beginning of Season 14. So to climb faster than everybody you know and to jungle diff every game you play, head to Virkayu.gg or click the link in the description below. It really does affect you. So the Karthus doesn't waste time on the top scuttle. Why? Because we saw the Evelynn pathing down on the Raptor ward. I would have shown that to you with a laser. That means when you see her ganking bottom lane, if you go back to base immediately, you buy immediately that Faded Ashes. Yes, it's been nerfed, it's still absolutely strong though. You go ahead and you counter gank that lane. These things already set you up for great success. Now in the second game, I will show you what happens if your bot lane int and you don't actually get these early kills, so we'll cover all bases in this video. But now the Karthus can go ahead and do a full second sequence. Here's where things get interesting. Because of the nature of Evelynn's clear down, where she set up that extra sequencing so all the level 4 and level 5 camps come up, she won't be ready for grubs. Karthus is pathing upside to ensure he's level 6 in 6 minutes, which he is. And you're noticing he skipped the Scuttle Crabs, right? But that's the thing. Would you rather have a Scuttle Crab or have some kills and have better sequencing? Now you saw the Evelynn gank on the bottom lane again. She's not really getting fed from this, and the Draven is of course 0-0. The Karthus was able to take all of the grubs and he can go back to base, buy, and now come back down to the bottom side. Now it looks like everyone's hardcore winning on the red team, yeah? The Ezreal's got all the gold, the Draven's 0-0, the Renekton's 0-0, but just look at the gold amounts here, keep this in mind, the Draven's gonna have a substantial gold lead over the Ezreal as we look at that early to mid game transition. So do bear in mind, KDA doesn't always reflect things, but your control as a jungle is almost a pulse within you. You understand when you've got that tempo advantage. Now notice how the Evelynn has to wait around for her Grump to spawn as a Karthus can go straight down to the Dragon. This is the imperative thing about this meta. I'm going to show you this in the second game as well. If you are not moving all the time, if you're not doing things actively all the time, you're going to have a struggle. You're not going to maximize your experience. Having intelligent sequencing and knowing, hey, look, I've got no camps to do, no objectives to do. Now I can shadow the enemy jungler. Let's cut away here. I had a game against Talia, same thing happened. I had an absolutely awful early game. It was just absolute trash. Literally, I'm not going to show it to you. But what happened was I was still sequencing well, maximizing the experience of the level 4 camps, the level 5 camps, and beyond. And thus I created a downtime scenario where I could kill her as she tried to sneak away a dragon, or I could gank my bottom lane, go back to base and kill her as she was trying to take my red buff. Then of course I get all the grubs, and later on she tries to force something down on the bottom side again out of desperation, and because I got no camps to farm and no objectives to do, what do? I shadow her and counter gank her lane gank because extrapolation. What you have to think about in this meta is when do I full sequence and when do I cut out a quadrant? When do I counter jungle crucial level camps? And the Karthus here is going to finish the dragon, go back to his Grump and his wolves, he's going to see the Evelynn hold mid lane, and here in this meta is where you want to become involved. Sure, we could go ahead as we look at the map and full sequence all the way to the top side, right? Raptors, red Krugs. Maybe we can look to gank top lane again, but my Shen is not even in the picture. The Grubs aren't anywhere close to respawning, and the Evelynn has taken her topside quadrant and shown on the mid lane. Here is where you pounce. You say, okay, I can finish this rotation on this third clear. This is the third full clear that we have now. Or I can say to Evelynn, instead of us handshaking finishing our third clears, because now these camps as they hit level 6, 7, and 8 will really become valuable, why don't I get in your face? And obviously, we don't want to die, we want to watch prio, we do want to be able to kill people and take their camps away, but it's got to be strategically sound and it's got to be at the right pressure points for the levels. So you can apply the pressure, you can steal some camps, you can kill them if you want, but the ultimate goal here is to fall back to your scuttle, cut up to your top side, do those next camps, and then kind of set up for the second grubs. Now, while the first grub spawn really laid itself out nicely for the Karthus, it doesn't do so here. We have the Tristana taking the mid lane turret and going back to base because of the rotations we force. She's up huge. And obviously we have the Draven hitting plates, cashing his passive, and he will stack up his gold as he goes. Also, shutdowns go a long way. Even if they have nerfed, bounty gold and shutdown gold, it still sucks to give it away for free. Unlike for Evelynn, who enjoys doing that, and Renekton shows up and down goes the Karthus. Sadly, Evelynn is now not in a position to capitalize on these grubs, and so we'll go back to base, buy, and then head to the top side again. The Karthus will simply go to the bottom side. He gives up the prio on the grubs, and of course the Evelynn died as well, so she's gonna go ahead and farm. And if you think, okay, look, I don't have the prio, and I don't want to go to the top side grubs because look, I got no camps on the top side, nothing to fall back to, that's not a totally incorrect thing to think about. You will have dragons respawning, you have your Grump and your wolves as you see he takes, and then he cuts in again to try and capitalize on some counter jungling. And now because we've got a huge downtime period between our topside quadrant spawning, the dragon spawning, he can afford to stand around and waffle. Now, I don't actually want any of you to waffle. You can eat some waffles while you kind of stand around, but don't have no purpose. Observe actions, observe summoner spells, observe fights. Can I rotate? Where do I need to be right now to help my team while I'm waiting for camps to respawn? In this case, you're going to see the experience slingshot. Now, this is something I covered in the private jungle Discord yesterday, but essentially, when you are roughly equal or just slightly ahead of a jungler and you've been clearing well and they've been doing decently but not really perfectly, you're not going to see your realization of your hard work until around the end of the early game. The Karthus here goes for the grubs and counter jungles the blue. Yeah, the Evelynn's able to get kills, the Draven's able to get shutdowns on the Tristana. You can't control that, and I'm really a big fan of honestly sacrificing teammates in these kind of moments. I don't like to just let them die, but I'm not going to wander down there when there's 1 trillion experience points and golds left on the map, and I can't even help them properly, okay? So we look to dive top lane, nothing, go back to base. We see our team doing the dragon after the shenanigans on the bottom lane. If you need to rotate to smite, do it. The whole goal is full blue side quadrant and dragon. Play it as you need to. And because of the last couple of minutes of sequencing and the way we played the game, and I recommend everyone who's a farming jungler play like this, look at the CS now, 90 to 130 almost, basically a 40 CS gap, 2 level lead, multiple objective control, and as we cross over to 40 minutes, usually over 6k, which is a Virkayu carry metric that you need to control your games. And that doesn't really change anywhere in any meta. That's just about how we get that gold and experience. And now I didn't really talk about the Evelynn in this video. I focused on the Karthus. And while we focused on when she was doing certain things and we were watching her, I advise you to even go back and just skim through again the first game here. What was the Evelynn doing while we were talking about the Karthus? Why is she down such big CS? How is she already down 20 early on? However, the big difference here about the carry metrics as you watch some of the gameplay out here is the Karthus was level 11 at 40 minutes, and I was pushing out the metric of level 9 and 6,000 gold at 40 minutes. That's a 2-level advantage that we have in this new meta over the previous meta at 40 minutes. Think about the power that gives you to carry your games and control your games. Think about what that means for your ability to climb if you have a great baseline of farming and ganking. Now I want to show you why cheese strategies are really nerfed in this patch, and also how understanding these experience levels on the camps where the boosted experience is will give you absolutely monster control. Pun there, not quite intended, but as you see, getting a leash because warding opposite blue because we're against a Shaco. This is great when you're farming jungler. You're gonna have your Xin Chaos, your Shakers, your Kindreds, your Jarvans all try desperate pleas to shut you down. So as always, when you are this kind of jungler thriving in this meta, make sure even with Faded Ashes being nerfed, that you ward your opposite buff and you try a reverse clear. And this is where the big brain is gonna come in, so stick with me. The way I'm gonna phrase this now will change the way you think about these clears and their timings. We have the Shaco obviously show up as I'm already on the Grump, Because I have the ward, I can see him. We finish off the smite on our Gromp because we saved it. We got the leash, which allowed him to know, hey, the Zyra's starting on the bottom side. I don't need a leash on Zyra, but because I ward, I'm late for my plant setup, and thus I want the Shaco to know, listen, invade me please. Please invade me. And when he does, all you gotta do is hit your damage, hit an auto attack to have the red buff reveal where the guy is. Your teammates rotate, and they do in basically most MMRs now, so don't come at me with that nonsense, and he dies. Here's the technology that you want to know. We're going to go ahead and do Wolves, Raptors, Krugs. Yes, the Shaco is going to respawn and most likely go to the bottom side. We press tab, we know we had 8 CS. Also, if he's invading that soon, he must have not done the full quadrant. Because he's on the bottom side, you can communicate to your team he's on the bottom side. Or you can shadow yourself and say, let me hit the plant. Oh, hello, Shaco. You take the Scuttle Crab. Now, the guy is finishing off that quadrant. Your bottom lane is pushing. What's he going to do? Most likely gank it. You drive across mid lane, help your mid laner shove and deny, take the second Scuttle Crab, but not before you take the Raptors first. As you might recall from the previous video, before the tier list, I'll just show it to you now, the Kayn I was covering and coaching decided to do the Scuttle before the Raptors, and then get pushed out of his own jungle. The whole thing about this, if you allow me to bring the map in, is that because he started on the top side, his respawn of the Gromp and the Wolves will be at around 420, at around 440. So while he did the Scuttle into the Raptors, now because those camps are available, he can be pushed out of his jungle and lose camps, which is what happened. In my case, this won't occur, right? Because my respawn timers, because of the reverse clear, are significantly delayed, about 30 seconds you're looking at. So now you take away the level 4 respawn Raptors from the Shaco and leave deep vision. How'd you know it's going to be a level 4 Raptors camp up at that time? Because the guy started Raptors. That's what people do, and that's why you want to use a Raptor ward on first rotation, to track this stuff. Now you can fall back to your Gromp and your Wolves. Why do we do this so quickly and deliberately? Because these respawn camps, my friends, from the reverse clear are level 5. When you take them delayed on a reverse clear, they're not level 4, they're level 5. And yes, that means the next camps you have on the Raptors and the Krugs, they will also be level 5. So even if you are a full clearing jungler, if you do it quickly, I advise you to actually reverse clear, because the second spawn of your camps will all be level 5, a huge amount more experience for you to use. Now, of course, it's not magical and it's not that dynamic, it's not gonna alter the universe, but I kind of like having extra experience here, especially if it allows me to mislead, especially if it allows me still the opportunity to counter jungle because my timers are distorted and I'm not under the threat of counter jungling. There's not a lot of downside here. Now, you could keep going, but at this stage, I've been out a while. I want to go get Faded Ashes. And you're watching with your F keys the Shaco gank top lane, get super low. All right, let's go ahead and snack away those free grubs. But Virkayu, aren't you leaving your level 5 camps on the bottom side of the map with the respawn of your red? Yeah, but remember, I'm the one that took the Raptors, so I know that they're gonna respawn, and the red's gonna respawn, and his Krug's gonna respawn. And I know they're gonna respawn at level 6, and those camps I have on the bottom side, they're level 5. And all of a sudden, you're wondering, yeah, but can't the Shaco just counter jungle? Well, no, that's why you have a control ward, that's why you track well, that's why you also have a scanner. And I also knew he was going to go to the bottom side because he had just lost his top side camps to me and himself. And so even though he was low and had to go back to base, there's nothing up here. Now by counter jungling this way, obviously you can look to dive the top lane, gank the top lane as well. Or if you're really focusing on just experience domination, track the CS advantage here, take your top side camps because they also respawned now and they're at, guess what, level 6. Of course, this nice full rotation down when you see the Shaco means that you will get a lot of experience here, but the Shaco will be forced into action and he will invariably get some ganks off. So he's able to go to a fight in the bottom side, the Ryze shows up. Don't actually go ahead and rotate here, just take the Krugs and hold the bottom wave. There's not much you can do to save your team when they just don't respect the Shaco, but also it's not really their fault, you know, like they need to play the game, they need to trade, they need to push, and you're all farming and counter jungling, that's great. But you've put a rat in a box, and sometimes your ADCs, because of their lower IQ, will stick their hand inside. They're gonna get bitten, but you can still win the game. And then again, think about the experience levels of these camps as they hit 7, 8, 9 and really become juiced. Go outside and rule. Once you leave the base here, you know that the grubbies are gonna respawn. Go ahead, and while he does a dragon, take the Scuttle and take his Raptors. If you want to take his Krugs again, please do so, but pay attention to the fact that the Shaco will start to gank your bottom lane more, he will start to gank other lanes, and he might rotate over to this. So you take what you can. If you get your 4th one, just feel free to leave and take your camps and get out of there. Don't overstay, don't fight. But if you have prior, of course, make sure you finish off those grubs and get all 6. Now the Shaco, again, he's gonna be really lost. All right, I'm a ganking jungler, I need to pressurize. Look at the CS gap, it's astronomical. He invades you here. Sometimes you might be alt-tabbing and talking in Discord and maybe not notice these things. I advise noticing them. However, when you do recognize that you were touched gently by Jack in the Box, question yourself. Is he going to go to my Gromp and try and fight me for that? or is he most likely going to try and do something top lane against Assad? I made the call that he would in fact do as you're seeing, and what happens is a lot of disgustingness and damage and a lot of things with plates, and basically that wraps up a lot of the early game here. Now with this playstyle, you're going a lot more for a jungle denial against cheeses, against gankers, and you're forcing them into a place where they're not really sure what to do. The other side of the coin is that they get a lot more fed from your bottom lane, and even though the guy is higher KP, let's fast forward to a little bit later in the game. We don't have the 6k gold, we have around 5.5k at 14, we're level 10, almost level 11, not quite the same as a Karthus. So I would advise you in these regards to try and look a bit more for some ganks. Obviously, I like to test things and play styles and everything so I can bring the information to you. However, the Karthus gameplay here is a great example of fusing the ganking, the counter jungling pressure, and your farming against other farming junglers. And in this case, I love that you can get these huge leads over junglers who cheese and gank just by understanding experience maximization in the jungle in this new season. And with that, all of the fundamentals that you need that have carried over from the previous split are covered in this video here.